Balance is bullshit. I used to tell myself and tell others, I need to find better balance. I need to find a better balance between Lemon Perfect and everything else. And Scott, it's not realistic. We have 91 incredible people. Many of them have families. I have over 300 investors. We've raised $99 million. How can I talk about being balanced when I have such burden on me with our people, with our investors, and with our current consumers and future consumers that have never even heard of Lemon Perfect? This is not for everyone, and I say that all the time. It takes an uncommon man or woman to build something magical in this world. I would imagine that if you look at the most successful entrepreneurs, they're out of balance.
Yanni, how are you balancing life with the work that goes into it? So I started a company in 2016 from scratch. I've been in financial services my whole life. We started buying up practices because the average age of an advisor in our industry is 62. So we continued to do that, and we were acquired this past year in December by a larger entity. We now run their M&A division, and it's our whole company stayed, our whole messaging stayed. Like, everything is really cool. So when I asked the question, I remember the first couple years, and now you're getting into 7 and 8. So how are you finding that imperfect imbalance of life where you're able to do the things you love and also like mix it with business? Are you finding it loosening a little bit? Are you finding that you've balanced it decently well, or are you just absolutely failing at that and learning as you go like everything else we do?
I keep telling myself, you need better balance. You need better balance. And that's a month ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. And then I sit in this chair, Scott, and I haven't found it. And I think my perspective is changing, candidly. I used to tell myself and tell others, I need to find better balance. I need to find a better balance between Lemon Perfect and everything else. And Scott, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. We have 91 incredible people. Many of them have families. I have over 300 investors. We've raised $99 million. And then we have a product that can impact the health of the American consumer and eventually way beyond that. And so when you think about my burden, let's call it 3 main burdens. One, giving our people the best professional experience of their lives and changing their futures. Whether that means their financial futures, because every single person here has upside on what we're building. If we or when we win, they win big. Their happiness, right? By waking up every day and being at a place where they feel valued, where they feel like they're building something that can be really magical, right? So the burden of our people, the burden of having our people feel like they're on a trampoline of growth, right? We want them to jump higher every day, every week, every month, every year. But let's just say 1 burden is our people. 2, our capital partners. I think I'm crazy enough. I want to do this one more time. And so winning and being acquired or finding our way to liquidity, very, very important. As important as anything. I have an expression that I talk about all the time. I say, there are 2 ways out of this office for me. 1's in a box and 2's with some coins in my pocket. And Scott, it better be number 2. And if it's number 2, all of our investors feel really, really good from an outcome perspective.
And your employees.
And our people, for sure. And then 3, and as I go through this journey, as I take another step, I'm probably more committed than anything else to changing the way that America drinks water, to removing millions and millions of pounds of sugar out of the American diet, right? If we consider that water, being hydrated, is one of the absolute pillars of good health, if we consider that sugar is one of the most destructive roots of good health, well, Lemon Perfect becomes the perfect solve. And that is an incredible burden for me. An opportunity at the same time is that we have a product that delivers real joy in every sip, but is also making people healthier by being a great trade out for whatever they're drinking right now, whether it's plain water or whether it's a high sugar drink of any kind. And so for me, how can I have great balance? Or how can I talk about being balanced when I have such burden on me with our people, with our investors, and with our current consumers and future consumers that have never even heard of Lemon Perfect at this point? So I have a dear friend and an investor, Jim Rowley. He's the CEO of Crunch Fitness. And they just wrote a Forbes piece on him, and the lead was balance is bullshit. And for the longest time, I tried to convince myself that I need better balance. And yes, you need to prioritize working out. You need to prioritize spending time with your loved ones, those that you love, those that love you. Very, very important. Mental health, all very important. But Scott, watching Netflix instead of thinking about Lemon Perfect, that's bullshit. And I'm just being very transparent.
Yeah.
My psychology, it is what it is. It's not for everyone, but that's how I'm wired. And I'm not going to change because maybe the world says, oh, you have to have great balance. Yes, I want our people to have great balance. I want most of our people. Our executives can't have great balance because they have outsized upside versus everyone else.
Risk reward.
No question. This is not for everyone. And I say that all the time. It takes an uncommon man or woman to build something magical in this world of beverage. Right? I can't speak for other businesses because I've never done it before. I can only speak for building a beverage brand from zero to winner. And by winner, I mean acquisition.
Right.
Eventful, an event, a positive event, liquidity event. I also mean consumption, right? I don't care where I am, what street corner I'm on. I want to see someone drinking Lemon Perfect. So there's that too, right? So there's ubiquity of there's scale and ubiquity, and then there's the exit and that outcome. So that's what winning looks like, right? It's kind of a duality.
Yeah.
But it is important to bifurcate that our people, right? Like it is important that most of our people, find that balance. We talk about sprint rest. That concept I do talk about a lot. But there are certain people in this organization where that gets thrown out the window. And that's just the facts. And no one more so than me. And I'm not gonna walk on glass about it. It is just what it is.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that if you look at the most successful entrepreneurs, they're out of balance. Look at the beverage entrepreneurs that have won. Mike Rapoli, Body Armor, Vitamin Water, Ben Weiss at Buy. I know them both. These are not people that have any kind of balance. They might now, after they've been successful, right? I think I'm looking forward to that. But not while you're building it.
Right.
So there's my life and Lemon Perfect are like this. That's what it looks like this, right? There, and there's no airspace. I mean, it's just, I wake up in the morning and I'm very fortunate that I create what my calendar looks like. There's that freedom that's incredible, right? Tonight, there's game 5 of the Western Conference Finals, Mavericks, Timberwolves, and
what a game.
I'm going to go watch it. Like, I have the freedom, and if I'm not doing this, but if I wanted to get on a plane tomorrow night and go to Florida or go to California or go to Nevada or where, I've spent more time with my dad as he's gotten older. I'm going to see him not this weekend, but next weekend. If I wanted to just go up there this week, I have the freedom to do that.
Right.
If I wanted to go tomorrow with 9 things on my calendar, I could cancel them all and just go, right? Or I could take them from a car and no one would look at me. So I love the freedom of that. But with that freedom also comes incredible responsibility.
With all freedom comes incredible responsibility. It's a great point.
Yeah. But you can't have it all. You can't have great freedom and balance and, I just don't think you can have it all. I think you have to, not when you have the level of responsibility that I have, I feel like on my shoulders. It's a big one. I want to make everyone, I want 500, 600, 700 winners in this thing, right? Our investors, our people, all of our internal and external stakeholders. And so, how would you feel if I was spending my time
watching Netflix?
That's just, think about that, right? Look, obviously, a little Netflix here and there, right? Right. But so I'm talking in the general sense.
Understood.
I think it's like on Saturday morning, I'm going to go walk on the Beltline. I'm going to put my AirPods in and I'm going to, and I'm going to make phone calls and I'm going to go and I'm going to, right. But, I'm not spending my whole day, sitting out, doing this, doing that, right? Like it's all in service to our people, our investors, and our current and future consumers.
It's a perfect answer. At the end of the day, there's 2 comments I have. Comment number 1 is, you will never meet a championship level team. You will never meet a great company that didn't sacrifice something. There are times during the weekends where, all jokes aside, I will look at my wife and be like, why is our son not going out? Why is he not doing other things? I'm like, Adrian, he's actually so focused at trying to win something. What did we do in high school? We did not get to that level because we chose to do all the other bullshit things that they're choosing not to do. So the reality is, the choices you're making today, the first comment are, you're trying to build a championship level company. And when you build a championship level company, it requires great sacrifice. The second comment that I will say is, we have to get comfortable with imbalance. That's the point. When I created the life model, love, impact, faith, and energy, you could put your Lemon Perfect right in the middle of that entire model, because when you think about it, you love the people you're working for, and you're working for them. This is the misconception. They think like, they don't work for us. You work for them. You're building something that all the people you serve will profit from, will win with. Impact. Your impact is to change the way people drink water. You're believing in something bigger than yourself. And most importantly, how you show up to the world is important. What I started doing when I felt like I needed more balance is I started brain dumping in each of those categories. Who's suffering because I'm putting too much into my company or my life or my business? Who's suffering that I care about? What do I need to change? Impact. Is my impact actually doing what I think it is? Is it actually impacting? Am I making the change that I think I am, or is it bullshit? Where am I failing? What do I need to fix? For faith, something bigger for me, it's God. But at that point in time, I'd be like, hey, am I actually remembering where I came from? Am I getting ahead of myself? Is the ego taking over? And last, how am I showing up? Is my health good? And so it was actually getting comfortable with the balance and with the imbalance, prioritizing the areas of imbalance that were the most glaring that needed to be fixed. And that would, so if you're not sleeping but 4 hours a night, and you're not winning, and you're not having the impact that you want, and it's moving slow, well, the first thing we have to change is I've got to sleep longer. I've got to figure out a way to sleep longer and rest. So that's how I have run that model. I've taught that model. I believe in it. It helped me build the company. It most importantly helped me reshuffle my life, where I started to feel like I was going too far, because the burdens that you talked about, the word itself is powerful, but the burdens you talked about are extremely impactful.
And Scott, I think that's a great point of clarification just on sleep. So when I talk about balance, I'm talking about waking hours.
Yeah.
I one of my real pillars is sleep. So I am 8 hours a night, 7.5, 8. And then the 16 that I'm up, those aren't well balanced, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So I do want to make that point of clarification. Just now, again, everyone's some can operate at a high level on 6, some need, but it's my imbalance comes in my waking hours, not my sleeping hours. So point of clarification.
It's great. Ultimately, listen, if you look, there are different levels of greatness. There are different levels of companies. Michael Jordan and Elon Musk are in line with greatness, right? Michael still looks pained when he rests just in an interview. He looks pained. He's like, I could be doing something different. I could be playing golf. I could be gambling on something really important, whatever it is, right? Elon doesn't like rest. Everyone that works for Elon, they're like, we never get breaks. It's crazy. But Elon's developing things, that satellites in space where the internet can work from any van in the middle of Wyoming. Like, there are things that happen because you put greatness into the result that you're aiming for. You didn't make a high school basketball team and kind of got into managing and coaching and found yourself all the way up the ladder as an assistant coach on major programs. But in the coaching platform, what made you make the decision to separate from something you love so much to actually try something new that you knew was going to be probably the hardest thing you ever did in your life?
I think insanity, Scott, probably just being, irrationally enthusiastic for what you can build, no matter how hard it's going to be. And I don't think I knew how hard entrepreneurship would be. I don't think I had any idea how hard beverage entrepreneurship would be specifically. I'm fortunate that there are a lot of parallels between coaching college basketball, coaching in general, and building a beverage brand, right? Because I'm still coaching a team today. We've got 91 people. We've got 91 incredible people. When I was coaching college basketball, we had 13 incredible student athletes. So the numbers of the size of the team has just become bigger, but I'm still coaching. We still have a scoreboard that we watch every single hour of every single day. Right? There's there are not 2 teams on the scoreboard. There's one, right? We have our scoreboard is revenue, right? It's sales. We are competitive versus the other brands in our category and the other brands in other beverage brands outside of our category. But at the end of the day, we're still very scoreboard focused. But I think the answer is it was just circumstance. The short story, Scott, is my last year coaching. I was at the University of Nevada. A friend of mine wrote a book on the ketogenic diet, and I was working for Coach Eric Musselman at the time. He's very demanding. He's one of my best friends now, but I was looking for some structure. I was looking for some routine as we got into our season. And I said, Matt, I'm in A through Z, let's go. And there was a diet program, there was a training program, and lemon water in the morning was on all of the sample meal plans. And so it became a part of my daily routine, and I hated it, right? There was one Whole Foods in Reno. It was organic lemon water, right? So there's one Whole Foods in Reno to go buy organic lemons, right? And you're not buying one at a time. You're buying 8, 9. They're all over the counter. Cut the lemon, squeeze the lemon juice all over, bland taste. Most mornings I just threw my hands up in the air. I said, this sucks. I stuck with it because I got into a really nice rhythm and felt great. I was training hard. We were winning games, and fast forward, and I'm in the locker room towards the end of the season, and Coach Musselman's wife, Danielle, her sister, was on the field marketing team at a beverage company called BAI, B-A-I. And this is the, call it the end of the first quarter, second quarter of 2017. And, it's interesting how I'm talking about quarters of years now. I would not have done that when I was coaching basketball. But it was at the very height of their growth story, right around the time of their acquisition by KDP, by Keurig Dr. Pepper. And we were drinking the product. And I just had a moment. I said, hold on, can we take lemon water and make it taste good? And that was the seed of this journey. I did not run out of the locker room that day and say, I'm going to start a beverage company. The season ended. We lost to Iowa State in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And a week later, I was in Santa Monica, California, having lunch with a friend of mine who had made several angel investments in consumer brands. And I said, John, what do you think about this idea? And he said, I love it. He said, anything that you can build that can capture a piece of someone's daily routine, what they do in the morning when they first get up, or what they do at night when they go to sleep, or any point in between, you can build a business around that, especially if they're doing it every day, if they're consuming something every. And I jumped up from the table. I said, John, I think I've got it. And that night I Googled how to start a beverage company. And that was April of 2017. So here we are now, 7 years later, Scott. We have now crossed 99 million bottles sold. In fact, by the time that this publishes, we'll be over 100 million bottles sold. So it's an incredible moment, or will be an incredible moment for Lemon Perfect.
What a great story. And I think the messaging for people that are listening are, a lot of people have great ideas. The difference between a great idea and something that's actually created, though, is the execution of that idea, of surrounding yourself with the right team. What was your initial team like? Like, how did you take the mentality of building a basketball team and incorporate it into the team approach of building a company?
Well, what I learned, and I became a better recruiter or a better evaluator of talent over time coaching college basketball, right? I was in it for 10 years. And so over time, you get better evaluating talent. The same is true here. I was on my own for the first 18 months. So most often in entrepreneurship, you're scratching, you're clawing, you're fighting at the outset to just try to figure things out. And that is how I did it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was very fortunate that I became a avid reader of everything that I could get my hands on as it related to building a beverage brand, and as it related to entrepreneurship, and as it related to raising capital.
Okay. I
became obsessed with certain podcasts, right? Listening to founders talk about building, especially food and beverage podcasts. And I was self-taught. I got my PhD. I got a 5-year PhD in beverage in 2, right? Or 3. Although I sometimes I feel like I still need to go back to school. But when we made our first hire just before we sold our first bottle. So, I registered the domain name lemonperfect.com in June of 2017. I call that day one, June 13th, 2017. We didn't sell our first bottle until September 27th, 2018. So, think about that. 18 months of just, products, packaging, putting the right consultants around the business, right? The right fractional resources, changing our packaging before we launched. So there was a lot, raising $1.2 million. I mean, there was a lot that happened in those first 18 months. And then I don't think I could have gotten our first 2 or 3 hires more wrong. It was just, you learn by making mistakes. In entrepreneurship, you're going to make a lot. You get to the winner's circle if you don't make any mistakes that can ultimately send you home, right? You have to be able to survive and advance. And what I'll tell you, Scott, is, by year, we were a keep refrigerated item for the first year, and then we ended up going shelf stable, which changed the entire trajectory of the business. And in the midst of that change is when I started to really understand culture in this world, who to hire, how to hire them, how to recruit, how to evaluate talent. And we've become, I think, about as good as anyone in terms of hiring, in terms of retaining, in terms of maximizing our resources. But it takes time, right? It took me 4 or 5 years in coaching college basketball to really find a rhythm to become really good. And I think probably I was able to do it maybe a little bit faster here. We're now in year 7. But it took me 2 or 3 years to figure out, what's the talent that's going to ultimately drive Lemon Perfect forward. And it's all about the people. I mean, I talk about 4 Ps a lot: products, packaging, pricing, architecture, and the most important P is people. You need to get the people part of this story right. And you need to be able to motivate and drive in an incredible way. But people are what make this story right now so magical. Our people. We've got a group that bleeds yellow, really bleeds yellow. If you looked at it from the outside, you would think that our group is irrationally committed professionally to building Lemon Perfect. And I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, the correlation, I think, between building a basketball team and building a company, and I've not built a basketball team. I have built other teams in soccer and coaching. But what I know is the results are immediate. So it's almost like this super refined, condensed version that you're having to build 13 players. They have to produce. You win or lose by the end of the season. Every game is extremely important. In an NCAA season, you can't have but so many losses. If you start getting into the double digits, you're probably not qualifying for the NCAA tournament. So when you go to a company, it's more of an endurance race. You have to sprint to make it work, but you have more time to watch it develop. And I've built a company. I understand the culture. One of the things that we found is we started hiring the human and not for the role. And so if we started doing interviews and we would meet somebody and we're like, sheesh, we got to have this person on the team. Like, I don't care what we're hiring for. This person can do 3 other things that we're missing in this company right now. I think we should hire this person, even if it means looking in another direction. And obviously financially it had to make sense, but finding the right human, building the right culture, it's in that consolidated state of basketball. You had to do it quickly. And if it didn't work, you were able to identify someone's mindset immediately, right? I mean, you were able to see these things. So, I'm just curious, do you feel like that really prepped you, I guess? That's the ultimate question.
Scott, I think that's a great point. In basketball, a lot faster if you've recruited the right player. Now, look, there are players that develop over time, right? Certainly. And I think probably actually less so in this world, in the world of building a business. I actually think that I know if I hire the right person within the first 30 days, whereas in coaching college basketball, right? Certainly back 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, before the days of transfers and NIL and all that, where you recruited and you said, well, maybe they'll develop sophomore, junior, senior year, right? That's kind of been thrown out the window now. And God, I thought I was a really good, recruiter. Give me one season to go back in this environment, and I feel like I could, help someone win a national championship. But I do think that you certainly get the results right faster in coaching college basketball than you do here, right? For us, we talk about the idea of survive and advance all the time, and over a longer duration of time, right? In beverage entrepreneurship or building this business, survive and advance is in years. In coaching college basketball, survive and advance is in games, right? And if you look at the NCAA tournament in a vacuum, it's survive and advance, win 6 games over the course of 3.5 weeks, and you cut down the nets. In beverage entrepreneurship, it's survive and advance and find a way to cut down the nets in 7 or 8 or 9 years, right? So time duration is very, very different here. And talk about having to have, competitive endurance and competitive perseverance. There is no other landscape on earth where you have to have competitive stamina, competitive endurance in a more profound way than in this business, than in entrepreneurship. I mean, you talk about having to get up sometimes when you've been punched in the tooth and know that it's not correctable by having a different starting lineup, by changing your point guard, right? It takes time. I mean, we get a data refresh every week, and the data doesn't move that fast, right? It takes, I mean, really, the snapshots last 13 weeks to have a meaningful look at, right? That's a long duration of time. And sometimes the decisions that you make, I'm thinking about our business for 2025 right now, for 2026. I might not know the impact of those decisions, good, bad, or in the middle, for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years from now.
Right.
Whereas if I make a decision on starting someone else in a lineup, I know, relatively quick, I know in the game. I mean, if I want to, blitz pick and rolls instead of being in drop coverage, I'm going to know if that's working for us right away. Whereas, if I'm talking about, raising our price or lowering our price or adding innovation or, hiring an executive, I actually don't know the benefit of that for very, very long duration. And you have to have real stamina to be able to just figure it out.
Yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely. And I think the shortened duration, it's even shorter now, to your point, with NIL and the transfer portal. I saw 1,700 students transferred last year. My son's going to play Division I soccer next year. So I paid attention to the trend, and having them go, watching the entire recruiting process change in the last 2 years and the landscape change. The average age of an athlete's like 22 years old in college basketball, in college sports in general right now. So it's crazy. It's probably why a lot of the great coaches who were developers, who were running companies, if you look at Coach K, Roy Williams, Dean Smith, all the guys that built these cultures. I mean, some of the most profitable cultures in basketball, they built businesses. They built brands. They built a model, the Duke brotherhood. Like, come on. Like, I'm 45 years old. I would go play for that entire team right now, just be a part of that brotherhood. So, they wouldn't have me though, Yanni. I don't think I'd make it, but
look, whatever you're drinking, and I hope it's a lot of lemon perfect. Keep drinking it, Scott. You look great for 45, so good for you. You're certainly right. The best coaches are the best brand builders. Best talent evaluators, best recruiters, best brand builders, right? I think that's why we've been successful here, because I think I've been able to evaluate talent. I've been able to recruit that talent, retain that talent, and then ultimately be able to storytell a great product on top of all that and build a great brand, right? And so again, when I talk about the parallels between coaching college basketball and building a beverage brand, they're really similar. In fact, I often tell aspiring entrepreneurs, after I tell them that they're crazy for wanting to go do this, right? I actually will joke around and tell them, go coach college basketball or go coach college football or go coach college soccer for 10 years and then come back to me, right? Go get that experience and then come back to me. And hopefully your idea is still good. And that's the truth, right? Is coaching is so relevant in the world of entrepreneurship and scaling a business. Scott, where did your son end up going to? Where did he commit to? Where's he going to play?
He's committed to Radford University, so he's going to go play in Southwest Virginia, right by Virginia Tech. And so him and his best friend, since he was 5 years old, they've been playing together at the highest level, club level. They're both going together. So he had a couple of different opportunities, but when he came to me and he said, hey, Dax, my buddy, might have a chance to go with me. I was like, son, I'm going to tell you, I don't know a lot of things, but I know that very seldom in life do you get to go do something with someone that you truly care about, that you played with since you were a kid. And if the other opportunities are significantly better, then we have to evaluate that. But if they're equal or close to it, they're not even close because you're doing it with someone you care about. And so, he'll be a freshman next year. He's just there. They actually play each other in the regional final for high school soccer tomorrow night. So
Scott, in Virginia, they're still playing?
Yeah, in Virginia they're still playing. So in Virginia we play. It's a spring season. Spring soccer season. Yeah, and last night they went to they played in the semifinal regional game. They went to they had 3 red cards, 5 yellows. They went to overtime, 2 5-minute overtimes, 2 5-minute golden goals, and then penalty kicks. All 5 kids on both teams made it. And then all 5 kids from our team made it. And the last kid on their team got blocked and they won to advance. It was a 3-hour soccer game. It was unbelievable, man.
You're kidding me. Wait, so 3 red cards on the same team?
Two on one on the other. So
they ended up playing 11 or I guess 10 on 9 for
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was 11-9, but the coach on the other team, talk about coaching, like you could admire it, right? I'm watching the other coach. The other coach goes straight defensive, no offensive. They're tied 1-1 at this point in time. Super smart decision, locked down the back, and it became like a practice drill where you're trying to attack and everybody's blocking the goal. So it was it was phenomenal. The other team was so fun to watch. And I know a lot of the kids because I've coached them and my kids grew up with them. So it's a close-knit area, but we love sports, man. And I love the analogy and of working in sports and business. One of the things that I try to get sports people to do that I don't think they do enough of that I do in business is personality assessment. So I'll do a personality assessment. I chart my entire team. I know like how many people come to they're like, I'm a people person. And then you actually chart them out and they're like, they really are introverted. They genuinely don't like being around people. They've just conditioned themselves to think that that's the way that they're going to be. And when I chart them all out and I see where we have gaps in the company, it allows us to coach better, to develop better. Most importantly, they feel more understood. if I know someone's analytical and I provide straight results, and I'm like, no, we're not hitting the numbers, but then I go in and I'm able to actually show them why we're not hitting the numbers, they feel heard and understood, versus the results-oriented person who just wants to know, am I winning or am I losing? And so, in sports teams, we've talked with, different academies at different levels about utilizing things like that. But I love it. I love the correlation between what you just described, which is coaching and sports in general, and building an entrepreneur-driven company.
No question. So sorry, just to reset. So you have a regional game tomorrow night and then the state playoffs?
They automatically qualified for the state by winning last night. And so the winner and the loser both advance to the state. And our area, so in Hampton Roads for soccer, they are probably the best area in the state of Virginia. Them in Northern Virginia tend to be the best, but we tend to be in different classes. So 4A, 5A, we're 5A. So, our school was 4A last year. They just transitioned to 5. The best part, Yanni, is it's where I went to high school. So watching my son,
awesome. Scott, where your son goes is where you went.
Yeah, same high school, man. Same team I played for.
That's rare. That's rare. And that gives me a lot of joy. So you've been in that Hampton Roads area from the time that you were very, very little.
Yeah, except for the 4 years that I spent at Radford University, where my wife and I went together as well. So he's just following the path. But life has a way of working that way, and it's really, really cool. I have another son who's playing for an academy in DC for soccer. He actually moved away at 14 to go play up there. So you're describing mindset. And what I know, when you're coaching kids, when you're coaching employees, when we're coaching, it's all the same. It's all how you can recognize it. But what you've done a great job of, to build a company to 91 people, to build a brand from scratch, to develop all of this and have the resilience to stay alive. It's the same mindset that you're teaching kids that would eventually be in your NCAA programs to succeed. Because what we're doing when we coach them is we're coaching them to actually work for a company like you later on, where that energy, that infectious work ethic, that ability to stand out amongst everybody else is unique enough that they win, and they win at every level of life. And that's I think that's the correlation we're talking about. It's super cool though. And I'm pumped. I wasn't even sure I was gonna be able to talk, by the way, when I came on. I was having a great time last night. So I am definitely, as the last kid walked up, I was like, I yelled to a goalie, someone's got to miss. And it was just so high energy, man. It was so fun.
That's fun. Well, if your kids have your level of energy, I'd love to have them one day after they're done playing. So hopefully we'll still be on the field at that point.
You will be
tracking the way that they are. I think we'll be in good shape. But really, we just gotta, we gotta play another game, right? We gotta play another game, get another year. You gotta have that competitive stamina, and just the ability, the mindset, to be patient and wait for the results of your decisions that do have long time horizon, like we just talked about.
Yeah. To bring us to a head here, tell the listeners what's next for Lemon Perfect. Where do they find it? How do they become a part of your story? And last, because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of high performers, if you're doing another raise, when is it, and how do people invest in your company?
Scott, I appreciate that. You can find Lemon Perfect just about everywhere now. The easiest place is probably lemonperfect.com or on Amazon, right? But we're sold in all 50 states across multiple channels of trade, whether that's the grocery channel, the club channel, the drug channel. So your biggest names, right? Kroger, Albertsons, Publix, that whole, Costco, Sam's Club, BJ's Wholesale Club. Really, we're very, CVS, we're very fortunate. Target, we're very fortunate that we have great distribution. So I would encourage all of your listeners, please go out, find the product, try the product, and then share it with your friends if you love it. Scott, for me, what's next for Lemon Perfect? I'm going through, an exercise right now around efficiency, right? Do we have the right people in the right places? You know, how do we get more efficient? How do we drive more revenue per head? I mean, these are things that are, when you think about being in this chair, that's real, right? We have an aggressive hiring plan as we scale the business violently. You know, do we need to hire 9? Can we do it with 7? Can we do it with 5? Can we have 2 play 1, right? I mean, or can I have 1 person do the work of 2? So those are the things that, you know, that I'm always thinking about. I'm thinking a lot about innovation right now. I'm thinking a lot about innovation, flavor innovation, format innovation. So that's a big part of my, that's a big part of my day. Our management team, where do I add to the management team over time, right? So those are the, there are macro lemon perfect questions that I'm thinking about. I've got to have, certainly a longer term lens. I think in this environment right now where you have, some pricing headwinds or, where the consumer's slowing down a little bit, how does Lemon Perfect continue to defy the odds and grow violently, right? This year we have a plan of over 60% growth, right? Next year, the growth needs to be in that same stratosphere, right? And so, and this business, this business will do over $100 million in retail sales this year and sell, call it, 65 to 70 million bottles. I mean, that's a lot of product. But now next year we got to go sell, we got to go sell 110. We got to go sell 120. Right? Like the numbers continue to get bigger and bigger. And as the numbers get bigger, it gets harder. And we plan to be around for a long time. So there's a lot on my plate. I love it. I'm embracing it. I've got a great group around me. I've got a wonderful board around me. I've got wonderful external resources around me. But at the end of the day, what I've learned is there's one man that has to make the big decisions, and he's sitting in this chair, right? And but I'm energized and I'm excited for what lies ahead for us. I believe that we're building a billion-dollar business. I believe that we're building a brand that will change the world. I believe that we're going to have an incredible outcome for our people and for our investors. And so there's probably more enthusiasm for me than there's ever been before. I think my competitive stamina is at an all-time high. And after 7 years, I've certainly had moments of great challenge and duress where I've wondered, where will we ultimately finish? Where will we be at the end? And Scott, what I'll tell you is there's no other choice but to cross the finish line first and to be the last team standing and to find a way to survive and advance and cut down the nets. There's no choice. There's no choice in this, right? Like I talked about earlier in the podcast, 2 ways out of the office for me, this office. 1's in a box and 2 is with some coins in my pocket and our pockets. And if we do that, we really will have made an incredible impact on first the American consumer and eventually consumers all around the globe. And I think that's what I'm most energized by. And your energy was inspiring or is inspiring and uplifting. I can't wait for your son's game tomorrow night. I want an email from you at some point tomorrow night that they've found the way to win. And I've really enjoyed this. This has been a lot of fun. So thank you so much for having me on.
I'm grateful to have you, man. And your energy is infectious. I know you hear that a lot, but energy is something that what we put out into the world is what we receive. And if you're putting that kind of energy out into the world, then that impact is going to go everywhere that you think it's going to go. And I can't wait to watch your story. I'll certainly keep you posted on ours. So thanks for being on the show. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you liked it, there's more where this one came from. Click here and enjoy some more.